What's up, everyone? How you doing? Maggie, I feel like I've been gone from dailies for like
I
weeks and weeks and
know.
weeks, but I did the Wednesday show last what is today?
Today's Thursday.
Oh, so it has been a while.
It's been a week.
A while. My brain is mush. My brain is mush for the best possible reason. It's because I just got back from a film festival, and film festivals and conventions are my happy places. So I
Mhm.
feel grateful to feel this exhausted. And I'm also grateful to be back on Collider Dailies, especially with you. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It has been sad not to have you on any episodes this week. I've had to deal with John every day.
Well, now you can hear me blab a lot today because
I'm
some of our
so
topics
excited.
today are South by related.
I'm so excited.
We're kicking it off with a review from South by Southwest, and it's for a pretty big movie.
Mhm.
It's for The Fall Guy. So just in case you don't know very much about The Fall Guy, it's directed by David Leitch and it stars Ryan Gosling as a stunt person who suffers an accident. He's out of the game for a while, but then he's called back to work on his ex's movie when the star of her movie goes missing, and that threatens to shut down the production. So, Maggie,
Yes.
I was excited to see The Fall Guy. I can't tell you it was one of my most anticipated of the festival, or I don't know, there wasn't that peak enthusiasm there. And I think it was in large part due to the fact that when I watched the trailer, for the first half of the trailer, I was so into the idea of an action comedy that focused on filmmaking and
Mhm.
honored stunt work in particular. But then all of a sudden it kicks into the narrative that I was just explaining, where Ryan Gosling's character has to like find this missing movie star and there's a criminal underworld and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, so it's going to veer away that and become, a more traditional action narrative. It does do that, but I was so wildly impressed by how well it weaves in the filmmaking of it all.
I love that.
Literally everything Ryan Gosling's character does in this movie is driven by his experience of being a stunt person, and it completely changes the game of all of the traditional action set pieces, and it gives them like not only this unique flair that makes them, dynamic and fun to watch and fresh feeling as far as fight scenes go, but it also makes sure every single ounce of this movie is absolutely like oozing for reverence for filmmaking. And
Oh,
as someone who lives every single day of her life talking about the craft of filmmaking and celebrating it, when I tell you this action romance comedy like had my heart bursting at the seams,
I can't
like
wait.
it exceeded all of my expectations to the point that I'm pretty sure this was my favorite movie of the whole festival, and I think it's going to be in contention to be one of my favorites of the year. It made me so happy.
That makes me so excited. From the first trailer, I was really excited because obviously, like you, I also talk a lot about filmmaking and I've also been on sets and seen, just how hard the work is for the stunt people on films. And that was where I was like, this is so great. I think like the filmmaking team is like already so known for their stunts in their movies that kind of playing homage to that is so exciting. And your review made me even more excited. Like I was just blown away by how thrilled you were with this film.
I still just can't believe it. And also part of that is because when I go to a film festival, like one of the greatest joys for me is, finding something lesser known, finding something that needs distribution and is something special and deserves it. And sometimes that means like I'm a little less enthusiastic to attend the screenings with studio backing that were produced by major studios. And I don't know, this one just did everything right and then some. And the cast is so good. Ryan Gosling is going to have like yet another winning year. He's so perfect for that role. He can do every single element of that role from, like the confidence that Colt, his character, has at the start in terms of his ability and his experience as a stuntman. He plays into the like I love fish out of water kind of
Mhm.
comedy. And that's what happens when he applies his stunt performer abilities to real world fights against real bad guys. He's able to do the comedy in those moments so well. He has so much chemistry with Emily Blunt. And I wrote this in the review. Admittedly, when I'm watching, an action romance comedy or rom-com, whatever it may be, usually the romance just like, it's not the thing that gets me more so than other elements of the storytelling. And I was so taken by their connection in this movie. And I loved how their connection also, I don't know, just further highlighted the importance of relationships on sets and community, and how her character's knowledge added the director brain space to the narrative unfolding. And also, I've mentioned director and stunt person. There's a lot of moments in this movie where it shines a spotlight on the unsung heroes of filmmaking, like a lot of emphasis on sound and other aspects of the production. And
I love that.
I'm just like, I'm really blown away by how well this movie was written, crafted, and executed ultimately. And I think it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna be, just because I know a lot of people think this about festival premieres. I don't think it's gonna be enthusiasm within the film festival bubble. I have very high hopes, like a whole lot of confidence that this is going to go on to be a major crowd pleaser and hopefully an astronomical hit, because this is a studio blockbuster that I think really deserves it.
I need that to happen because I love action films, and I love action films that bring romance into the mix. So hearing that there is this romantic element to it has me even more excited, and I need it to do well so we can continue to get films like this, because that's what I want.
It's good. It's so good. And I loved Winston Duke in it. He plays Ryan Gosling's character's close friend and the stunt coordinator on the movie. I just love his presence in films. And then watching, him fight alongside Ryan Gosling made me happy. I thought Aaron Taylor Johnson was especially good in his role, really making the most of playing a character like that. Same with Hannah Waddingham. Stephanie Hsu is in it. There's a very good dog in it. The fact that this is a movie about movie making and in particular stunts, and it made sure to honor and respect stunt animals.
Yes.
This, really, the second that happened, my brain was just like, okay, we're elevating this to like top tier in my book. So this was definitely a favorite.
Oh, I'm so excited. I cannot wait.
Were there any other South by Southwest titles that had caught your eye that you want to know about?
I feel like that was the one that was like my big focus going into it, because there were so few that are available for, folks that aren't at South by Southwest to actually watch this year, that I wasn't as tuned into it as maybe before. I'm really excited for Nicolas Cage's movie. Like that seems really interesting. And everything I've heard about that coming out of South by Southwest seems curious.
I did hear quite a few good things. So now we're kind of like moving into our broader South by Southwest 2024 conversation, just to highlight a couple of other titles. So that is there we go. Now it's official. So yeah, I heard a lot of good things about Arcadian, the Nick Cage movie, and there's a bunch of other people in that cast. I'm a little less aware of that one because we were lucky enough to have that group in our interview studio, but Steve did that one. So yes. I believe, I don't know if he saw the movie though, but I do know a bunch of other people who saw it and had some very positive things to say about it. So that's one that I'm looking forward to seeing myself. I think my second favorite movie of the festival might be My Dead Friend Zoe with Sonequa Martin Green. I thought that was,
I love Sonequa.
She's so good. She's just she's one of those actors where every single time she's on screen, you just know with the utmost certainty that she's giving every ounce of herself to her role and to a moment. And you feel that big time in this. It's got like a very, it's got like a lightness and a charm to it, but it's dealing with very heavy subject matter. And I'm trying to think about how to word this without spoiling anything, but I think the point it makes at the end is especially beautiful and specific to her character's situation in the movie, but has a broader meaning as well that just about anyone can probably relate to. And it's one of those movies where I think it puts on screen something that might be difficult to process when you're just sitting there thinking about it to yourself. So that one's worth looking out for. I also loved Immaculate. Immaculate was like,
yes. I saw that you
So
got
right
to do
up my
that
alley.
conversation with Sydney Sweeney. That looked like that went very well.
So not only did we do an immaculate interview at the Collider interview studio with Sydney Sweeney, more of the cast and the director, we then went to the Austin Convention Center, and I was lucky enough to get to moderate a full hour-long conversation with her. You could actually see it on the South by Southwest YouTube channel now, but she's the coolest. She's just so nice and she's so talented. And I think I say this pretty much at the beginning of that featured session for South by Southwest. I love, love, love when actors in this industry amass this like huge fan base, build themselves this great platform, and then they use it to get behind passion projects, to make something happen that they believe in, that might not happen without their name attached to it, or might not happen the way it should without them having a degree of creative control. And it just seems like that's really what she's out to do, what she's out to do herself as an individual, and also through her production company, 50/50 Films. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what she does beyond this, but she's great in this entire movie. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I just want to tease that there's a lengthy oneer in this movie where the quality of her performance and where she has to go is just like sky high, really just mind-boggling how a performer could do that. And then you have to also consider all the other elements of the production that need to be like on point in order for a lengthy shot like that to happen. So impressed. So impressed.
It looks like a good one. I'm not super big into horror in the same way you are. I'm usually just afraid of there ever being like people getting their necks slit or anything like that. I can't do that. But that trailer looks so good. Like, I'm so curious to see that film.
Don't watch that movie in a couple of years. There's some I don't know. There's some brutal visuals. Maybe I shouldn't say like I want everybody to judge horror for themselves, because I know some people just really don't want that in their lives. This is very well done, I think, and maybe if you go in with a sense of how prepared you need to be for that stuff, it could help. But Immaculate comes out on March 22nd, so everyone can see it then. Two others that I wanted to highlight very briefly. They're horror movies, and one is a second feature. It's called Oddity. It's going to be an IFC release, and it's just one of like the most elegantly crafted horror movies I've seen in a while. That's just so rich with familiar horror ideas that you know and love, but with like just the right unique spin on them, and a really brilliant way of fusing them all together where it does make it feel like a one-of-a-kind vision. That one I think was extremely impressive. I believe that one is also going to Shudder, if I remember correctly. So Oddity, do not miss that one. And then I still can't believe this one. It's called So Torn, and like sewing. So I can't believe the concept of this movie, first of all, which is it's about a seamstress who uses her seamstress skills to kind of commit the perfect crime in a sense.
Ooh.
But then what makes it even more interesting is that it's almost like a choose your own adventure-ish format where the movie shows you multiple possible outcomes depending on what she chooses to do at a given moment. So brilliant core concept, then a really interesting way to make the most of that concept. And then on top of that, this movie is a first feature. And the director, Freddie McDonald, he's so young. My brain cannot compute how so much talent exists in someone so young. And, at the very beginning, at the most beginning stages of one's career, there is so much ahead of him, and it makes me so happy. And I feel like me giving that description doesn't even do what he did in this movie justice. I feel like I wish I could better explain how she uses her seamstress skills to like build these contraptions, and how difficult it is to film those, and how difficult it is to make those things seem believable. But like, he does that. He does that every single step of the way. It's just such a unique vision, and I have so much confidence that He's going to go really far in this business.
Oh, that's exciting. I feel like for me, like looking at South by Southwest, I was mostly living vicariously through all the pictures from the studio and like seeing the actors who I like that were being interviewed. I'm like, oh, I want to see their like project. There was the one film that Morgan Spector is in. Saw that you guys interviewed them. That whole
I
cast
liked that one.
of people that I adore. So I was like, that looks really exciting. So there seems to have been a lot of really good projects at South by Southwest this year.
The Morgan Spector one was I Don't Understand You. And that was another one that I thought was very well done. It's a horror comedy blend about a couple on the cusp of like locking in the adoption that they've wanted for so long. And while it's all happening, they go away. They go away to another country, and they go to a remote restaurant and get stuck in a rainstorm. And it's just about how like one confusing thing happens after the next, and that's how the horror and the comedy blend together. And I mean, it leans into the title, I Don't Understand You. Like, it's just one misunderstanding after the next that like should be a 1 on the frustration scale, but like something happens and it takes it to an 11.
Oh, I love that.
I thought that was
misunderstanding trope a lot. I'm a big fan of that trope, so that's great.
It was very, very well done. And I feel like I've been blabbing for a while, but like, do know that that's only like the smallest fraction of the amount of films that I saw at South by Southwest. And I said something similar after Sundance, and I'm so grateful for it. I'm being like, to my core, like 100% honest and saying this with so much enthusiasm. I only saw maybe 1 or 2 films at both festivals combined that I would give a negative review score to. The quality of filmmaking that is on display at these festivals is either like solid, if not exceptional. And man, does that make me happy. It makes me happy in general for this industry, and also because of how many of these films are coming from newer voices. So I think it really speaks to like how good things are right now if you know where to look, and how bright the future of this industry could be if these voices continue to be supported.
I'm excited. Very nice.
All right. Our final topic of the day is a biggie. It's a biggie. I know you wanted to talk about this one, and I was happy when I sent the list that you picked this one too, because it's interesting. It's interesting. So, final topic of the day is clearly Patty Jenkins's comments regarding Rogue Squadron and the update on that project. So, the project was first announced at the end of 2020, and at that point, Disney had given the film a December 2023 release date. But in September of 2022, Disney pulled it from their release calendar. And then last May, it was reported that it just wasn't in active development anymore at all. So we basically assumed the project had come and gone. That was it. Now, however, Patty Jenkins just appeared on a podcast called Talking Pictures, and she's saying that it's back in development. And I'm just going to read the quote so we get her words accurately here. So, longest quote, she said, "When I left Star Wars to do Wonder Woman 3, and I started working on that, we talked about, well, maybe I'll come back to Star Wars after Wonder Woman 3. So we started a deal for that to happen. When Wonder Woman 3 then went away, Lucasfilm and I were like, oh, we've got to finish this deal. We finished the deal right as the strike was beginning, so I now owe a draft of Star Wars. So we will see what happens there. Who knows? They have a hard job in front of them. What's the first movie they're going to do? They have other directors who have been working, but I am now back on doing Rogue Squadron. We'll see what happens. We need to get it to where we're both super happy with it." I was shocked.
I was so shocked. I thought somebody was pranking me when I saw this yesterday.
When I first saw the headline, you know, my investigative brain, or my, you know, watch out for headlines with no backing on the internet thing, like kicked in.
Yeah.
Like, man, this must have been a quote that was, I don't know, pulled out of context, or something where like the tone could read a different way on the page versus how she actually said something. And then I went and I read, I mean, this is what she means. Like,
yeah,
she's working on it.
And I think this, you know, kind of echoes back to what you were talking about with like the state of the industry and where things are going. I mean, there's so many times that projects die and then they come back and then they die and then they come back and then somebody starts working on them again and then they die again. So it's like we really do not know where this will ultimately end up, because Star Wars does have an unfortunate kind of trend of like having directors lined up, having writers lined up, having films lined up, and then those films never coming to fruition. We've seen it kind of time and time again here in the last couple of years. I am still cautiously optimistic. I would really like to see this. You know, I've worked with Patty Jenkins on Wonder Woman 1984, so I know how good of a director she is and how passionate she is about the projects that she delves into. And I think she's a really great filmmaker, and it would be nice to have more women making Star Wars. And I think there's a lot that she could bring to that. So especially with her own, you know, background with her father being in the military and having that connection to airplanes and flight and the entire kind of themes of Rogue Squadron are things that I'm really excited for. I loved like the X-Wing pilot books when I was younger, and I was reading all those Star Wars books. And I don't know, I still hold out hope for this project. It's a lot of cautious hope. I know exactly how this industry works with, you know, projects that get kind of pseudo greenlit and then you get a draft turned in and then it never goes anywhere. But we can hope.
Well, I get that kind of apprehension because our brains have been trained to operate that way, especially at this point now more so than ever. That's always been part of the industry, especially with these massive budget productions. But in particular, when it comes to, you know, some of the most popular franchises out there, whether it's Star Wars, DC, Marvel, then some, there's been a lot of big announcements that don't pan out. So you hit a point where there's so many of those instances that you got to remain cautious, even when something takes a positive step forward. And that's kind of how I'm looking at this. I loved this idea when it was first announced. I loved her personal connection to the material. One of my favorite corners of A Galaxy Far, Far Away has always been X-Wing pilots. I love that mentality. I love the way that X-Wings look on camera. I still cry every single time I watch Force Awakens and March of the Resistance kicks in and you see the X-Wings swoop in.
Exactly.
Seriously, brings tears to my eyes every time. I loved everything about how this project sounded. I just want to make sure before I get too enthusiastic that there's like, I need another layer to this to make sure it's really going to happen beyond, you know, we're working on a script and we're just working to get it to a place where we're all happy with it.
Yeah.
So I think until cameras roll.
I mean, even if they have to do something with it where they shift away from a movie into like a TV series or something, like give me a Top Gun Maverick meets Star Wars television series. Like there's things that you could do there, or a mini series, like depending on where they're going with this. There's so many potential stories to tell within that corner of the galaxy.
Top Gun Maverick meets Star Wars just made me kind of happy.
Right,
I mean, that is what it could be. And, you know, when you think about a lot of the camera rigs that were specifically built for Maverick, I mean, that's like one of the greatest joys of filmmaking is watching one production develop something that creates these next level visuals and then seeing other productions use it to improve their shots as well. So I would love to see that. I just fingers crossed.
I know.
Fingers crossed.
Optimism.
I know. Fingers crossed. This is one positive step of many to come.
Yes.
With that is a wrap on today's edition of Collider Dailies. Before we say goodbye, tell me something that you've worked on, Maggie, that you're really proud of and you want everyone to go read or watch.
It is not out yet, but it will be out tomorrow. I will have my review for Irish Wish up on the site and my interview with Ed Spaliers, which was a really great 20-minute conversation. And it's in video form and in written form, so you can watch it or read it. And it's really great. We got to talk about, you know, Picard a little bit, as well as some of his other projects. So that's always a great conversation, and I'm very excited about that. And then over the weekend, my Farscape interviews will be dropping for the 25th anniversary of that show.
I love the sound of all of that.
Yes.
It's going to take me a little time to start rolling out the South by Southwest interview. So until then, I guess I'm reminding everyone that 2 ladies' nights dropped last weekend. One with, I still can't believe this, Millie Bobby Brown, who is incredible. Like Sydney Sweeney, she's also emerging as a producing force in this business and really getting behind the projects that she cares about and thinks will really pan out and shine a spotlight on certain types of characters and stories in a way that I think really matters. So it was a real joy to have her on the show. And then also one of my favorite people in this business, imaginary star DeWanda Wise, who is incredible. And like, actually, now that I'm saying it, yet another force emerging in the producing space, from actor to producer. And she told this incredible story. This is like what the piece on the Collider.com was centered around. She told this incredible story just about how a crew member on Imaginary went through something really difficult, and Blumhouse, the cast, the crew, everyone just rallied behind this individual in a way that mattered. And the way that, I'm going to butcher her words now, but the way she said, it's like, it doesn't even matter like what happens with this movie, just in terms of like box office success and like Hollywood version success. What we did like mattered as human beings, and that's a very important part of filmmaking as well. So I was just really like, my heart was full hearing her mention something like that. So go watch those on this very YouTube channel. And with that, we're out. We're out. And I will see you tomorrow with John at 10 a.m. Pacific. Have a good day, everyone.